Next guest had over 550 wins, multiple titles, Olympic silver medalist, got to as high as #2 in the world, Indian Wells tournament director. Let's get Tommy Haas back on the show. We've had him on before. There he is. What's up, Tommy? It's good to see you.
Hi, Tommy.
Nick, Nolsey, Jeannie. Have you got your tennis hit in yet today, Tommy?
No, I have not,
Okay.
Unfortunately so. I thought about playing a little paddle this morning, but I've had some shoulder problems recently again. So I'm just trying to figure those things out before I get back out there.
Tommy, you mentioned the paddle. Are you playing a little pickle as well? I mean, we play a little tennis every now and then when I'm in town, but are you playing pickle too?
What's pickle?
Ask Jeannie what pickle is.
Sorry, Jeannie. No, it's the ongoing topic, right? Obviously, yes. I've been following it. I see who's playing pickle and who's out there competing, and I'm sure everyone makes their own assumptions. I much more prefer paddle, of course. I think that's much more of a challenging game, more of a fun game. I have played pickle in the past with my kids every once in a while, but it's not so much my game yet.
Tommy, obviously we see down there Indian Wells tournament director since 2016, as we know. How much tennis are you following these days? Are you following it kind of every single week? Are you dialed in?
Yeah, I'm dialed in. Tennis Channel is on pretty much all the time. The fun thing for me is my youngest daughter, Josephine, who is 9 years old. She really got into tennis now this past summer. So she's very curious. I feel like at times she knows more about the players than I do now. So that's always fun. When she wakes up in the morning, it's like first thing she does, puts on the Tennis Channel. We have bets going on, who's going to win Rome on the men's side and women's side. So, we're competing on that end, and she likes to play, which is a lot of fun for me. So, it's always, good to obviously stay involved and know what's going on, who are the young up-and-comers. And, of course, for me, tennis is the best sport, even though I'm biased, I'm sure, but I love watching it and following it.
Oh, there's some nice video there. Haasy, Nolsey here.
She was doing the coin flip.
Nolsey.
Coin flip.
Yeah, that was
nice.
Cute. I always try to sometimes test my kids and see how they react when you kind of ask them a few things. And I asked Josie, I said, hey, would you be ever willing to do the coin toss and go out there? And, she's a big fan of Zabalenka's game. And I said, maybe we can arrange that in Indian Wells if I have some pull at some tournaments, Indian Wells is the one to go with. And she was like, yeah, I would love to do that. And I was like, okay, now I better perform. And obviously with the great team out there in the desert, we were able to make that happen. And it was a great memory. And, it was super, super fun for her as well.
Oh, that's so cool. Haasy, of course, I've known you forever. I remember the first day you stepped foot in Bradenton, Florida at Nick Baltre Tennis Academy. But we just had your resume up there. I mean, you've pretty much done it all in tennis. So many great things, silver medal, a couple of deep runs and slams, 15 career titles, over 500 match wins. Is there anything that stands out representing your country in Davis Cup? Like what stands out for you now looking back on your incredible career?
Yeah, thanks for that, Nosy. Great to see you as well. Hope to definitely see you somewhere in the summer, and also at Nick's reunion, December 2nd. Definitely have to make that happen.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's always a really tough thing in many ways. It's an individual sport, and I'm sure you look at it the same way. All of you guys out there that have played the sport for many, many years, you look back and you try to look at the things that you've accomplished. And of course, deep down, you're very proud of the fact. And, I think the biggest thing for me now is just kind of looking back and saying, wow, I was honored, and it was a pleasure to play on tour for 20 years with, of course, lots of ups and downs and some injuries that I had to occur and come back from. But yeah, and then you have sort of like your good angel and your devil angel on both shoulders, and the one is telling you basically your career was just pretty much average because you didn't really achieve the things that you wanted to achieve. Ultimately, that was to become a Grand Slam champion, and I felt like I had a good chance there in 2001, 2002 when I was kind of playing my best tennis, and then things sort of changed around a little bit when I had two back-to-back shoulder surgeries, and I had to redevelop my game a little bit. I didn't have that pop on my serve anymore, and just proud of the fact that I was able to, of course, still go out there and compete and win matches, win titles, but never really reaching the pinnacle. But that's how it goes. It is a really tough sport out there. It is, you have to continuously perform at a high level for 2 weeks, of course, when you are playing a slam, and that's why it's just even so much more impressive to see some of the players in the past and currently, how they're doing it, performing at the highest level continuously when it counts.
Tommy, you and I have practiced together back in the day in Bradenton at IMG, and also have played exhibition events together, like Necker Cup, Richard Branson's event. You always seem so serious and well prepared for those. So I just want to know what your training regimen is now, even though you're years removed from being retired.
Yeah, thanks, Jeannie. Good to see you.
You too.
Obviously, great memories with you as well. And I think we're still undefeated in the mixed champion series in doubles. I think we've always done extremely well, complementing each other.
See
So
the
that was fun.
intensity.
So if you ever need-
intensity.
if you ever need another mixed doubles partner in tennis or padel, let me know. Pickleball, I might have to pass.
You're my #1 call for all the others.
But overall, you know, I think in general, you know, it's one of those things. You know, tennis has been my life. It'll be continuously in my life for as long as I can hopefully think and appreciate being here. And you know, so for me, intensity is just something that I've always had. It's you know, since I can remember, since the stories I've heard from my family growing up playing, you know, the sport at age 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. There was always lots of that going on. Even at Bollettieri's, you know, when and Nosy knows that too. Back in the day, it was a really competitive spot. You know, the Bollettieri Tennis Academy, players from all around the world kind of going for the same goal. So you know, you had to kind of be intense. You had to kind of do your work out there. I always felt like personally I need to put in you know, the effort and the work to sort of be prepared, to sort of, you know, have the chance to go after my dreams. So that always became sort of natural for me. And you know, nowadays, of course, it has changed dramatically in terms of, you know, my entire day and still trying to, of course, you know, be somewhat active, but I have to be active. You know, if I'm not active, my body doesn't really feel good. So, you know, trying to get up in the morning and already having sort of in mind if I'm going to play a little tennis or a little paddle or go in the gym and, you know, ride my bike and do a few stretches, a couple exercises. That's just part of my daily routine. And if I miss a day or two, you know, I already can feel a difference after that. So it's part of my life. It always will be, hopefully. And you know, I always want to be ready in case that phone call comes and I get the chance to go out there again.
Perfect.
When we were teasing you on the show, Tommy, we were mentioning that since 1975, you're the oldest player to win a match at Rome. It was that last season. You were over 39 years old. And that was the same year where you took out Roger Federer in Stuttgart. You were 39. Do you ever... Also, I want everyone to know that in that 2017, that was when Federer started 36-2. He won Aussie Open. He won the Sunshine Double. Do you ever actively think about how cool it is, what your final win is, German soil, taking out Roger Federer?
Yeah, you know, it's a great thing to always say, look, the last match that I won on tour was against Roger Federer on grass. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
The funny side to that story too is actually, you know, there were two things. You know, first of all, I think it was 2-6, 1-2 down in the second set, and we played about maybe, I don't know, 29, 30 minutes in that match, and I was just thinking in the changeover, God, I really hope I can stay out here for at least an hour. You know, anytime you lose a match and it says like 58, 59 minutes, less than an hour was pretty embarrassing. And so I kind of told myself, come on, try to stay out here. Somehow I won the second set in the tiebreak and I was in the match and I looked at the clock again doing a changeover. It's been an hour and, you know, 25 minutes. And I was like, okay, third set, anything can happen now. And I did feel my lower back tightening up though again. So I was sort of relaxed because I was so furious with myself or with my body that once again, I'm kind of dealing with an injury while I'm playing here against Roger, trying to win this match. But I was so relaxed and so pissed off inside that I somehow found a way to win that match. And as I'm walking to the net, I'm thinking to myself, you know what, my family's here. I'm in Germany. My daughter, who was 6 years old at that time, I think Valentina was in the crowd. And I was telling myself, I said, I should just take the microphone and say, that's it for me. I'm done. You know, it's not going to get any better than this. But then, of course, you know, you're talking to yourself and you still wanted to play in Halle. I still wanted to play in Hamburg. I still wanted to play in Kitzbühel, those tournaments to say goodbye, you know, German-speaking countries and where I had some great success. So I didn't retire, but I never won a match again. Every time I got tight or close, you know, after that, you know, trying to set points or maybe trying to win a match, I couldn't do it. So it was also a mental thing for me right after that. So kind of crazy how all these things, you know, develop throughout a match. I mean, you know, Jeannie, Nick, and Nosy, you guys know the amount of things we think about during a match, and even just to, you know, what to do on a break point. Do you play defensively, aggressively? I mean, the thoughts are constantly there. It's such a battle all the time. But you know, also other things that you think about that nobody can really fathom at times. But yeah, it's a great way to end it up and say, you know what, every time I see Roger, I can remind him the last time we played, I got you.
That's amazing. And also, I want to remind fans that right after that loss that Federer took to you, he goes on and wins Halle and he won Wimbledon. So that's amazing.
Yeah, that bastard.
Tommy, go ahead.
Well, Tommy, you played against so many different opponents, multiple generations of players. Who was the toughest opponent you faced and why?
God, there really was a lot, you know, and, you know, looking back, that's obviously been a privilege, you know, to play, you know, people that I looked up to, of course. I mean, I remember playing Agassi pretty much early on in my career. I think it was in Scottsdale, maybe the first year I was on tour. And I could remember vividly, I think Andre, because of the history with Nick Bollettieri and him, you know, he was his coach and then kind of left him in a weird way. And I was obviously, you know, with Nick at the time. He came out, you know, firing. I think, you know, he was, you know, I think in a good place at that time with Brooke Shields as well. And he came out and just wanted to give me a beating, and he sure did. And I mean, it's like, you know, anytime Andre came out and played the way he did, focused, you know, from the baseline, there wasn't much that you could do. And I wasn't, you know, nearly good enough of a mover at the time to sort of try to get the defense into offense. So I remember playing him. I remember playing Pete when he was playing his best. You know, it was virtually impossible to break his serve. I mean, to me, he still goes down as the greatest server of all time. First and second serve, I absolutely loved his service motion, his placement, the speeds, and, you know, it was different because he also played serve and volley a lot, so you could never really get much of a rhythm against him. You'd hold your serve pretty easily throughout the match, and then it'd be like 4-all, 5-all, a couple of tight points, and then all of a sudden he'd keep the ball in play and, you know, hit that running forehand when he needed to. So that was always fun matchups. And then, of course, you know, the matches against Roger, Novak, Rafa. I never played Rafa on clay, which looking back, I'm really happy about that because I think it would have been just survival of trying to win games. I mean, you know, what Rafa did in Roland Garros, you know, we'll never ever see that happen again. I mean, I pretty much can guarantee you that. 14 French Open titles is just absurd, and what he's done on clay, it's crazy, crazy impressive. Of course, Roger, when he was playing his best, I would feel like he would just kind of let you know how much real estate you actually have to cover on a tennis court because you know, you'd guess a lot. Is it a slice? Is it a drop shot? Is it an angle? Is it fast? You know, is he surfing volleying? You just never knew what was coming at you, and you always had to be ready to play him. And then Djokovic, you know, at his best, you know, I don't know how he was supposed to put the ball by him. Just incredible, you know, what he could do. And then you also had Del Potro, and you had Wawrinka, and you had Nalbandian, and you had Davydenko, and I don't know, you had a lot of, you know, different players, and that's not even going back to the guys that were big servers, you know, with, you know, Andy Roddick even, you know, we've had some great battles, you know, Leighton Hewitt, who would...
Safin?
Marat Safin, I mean, you know, just a beast out there as well. So lots of great memories, lots of great matchups. You know, we could talk about that all day long, about each individual player, what they brought. But, you know, lots of great fun memories for sure.
Tommy, you just expanded on how many generations you covered. You played so many great champions. I just wonder, how have you seen the game kind of evolve and change and now going into the new generation of Alcaraz and Sinner?
Yeah, you know, one thing that's funny in some ways is last year when I was at the Lever Cup in Berlin, I got to do the coin toss there. Obviously, still very good friends with Tony Garzik, and he asked me if I was willing to do that in Germany, and I said sure. And so I went to the bench to you know, Team Europe and Team World, and you know, high-fiving everybody up close and personal. And I realized there that, you know, with my 6'2" and, you know, and somewhat in shape, I was like, my God, these guys are all just becoming so strong. They're all like at least 6'4" to 6'6". You know, super physical and just, you know, unbelievable athletes, right? So it's, I think, you know, in that terms of on the men's side, even on the women's side as well, the physicality that they bring, the power that they bring, you know, the constant, you know, even watching Sinner now that he's back, you know, forehand, back inside, you know, moving so well. I don't know how he's supposed to play defense, really. Like, if I were to think, okay, what would I do with my game, you know, pretty much a good all-round game, trying to change it up, you know, maybe hit a slice, cross-court, down the line, a drop shot here or there. I just don't know if I had the legs or the physicality to hold against that. And I think that has changed, you know, dramatically. And, you know, then you look at somebody like Alcaraz, who maybe isn't, you know, barely maybe 6'1", 6'1.5". But, you know, when you watch him up close and personal, you know, how he moves, and how early he reads the game, and what kind of an athlete he is, and the speed that he has, it's like, are you kidding me? So it's fantastic to watch, and that's, you know, obviously the matchups that, you know, we love to watch on the men's side. You know, Alcaraz, Sinner, and, you know, playing against these, you know, Zverev and you know, Djokovic, you know, if he's still around and he's, you know, fired up. So that's that's where I kind of have seen it, with the Sheltons and the Taylor Fritz, even the American players, a lot of power, a lot of speed. That's what I think has changed a lot. So I feel like even Mensik now is coming up. I don't know how you're going to play a game, with finesse. And that's why even like watching Moutet or Gaston, the French players, the two lefties, how much fun is that to watch those guys? Because they're trying to figure it out. It's just not gonna be enough to get deep into a Masters or a Grand Slam these days, unfortunately.
That's great perspective.
Tommy, you're the Indian Wells tournament director, of course. I want to know what you think, being a former player, the best improvements are at tournaments. Now, where there's more prize money, better facilities, better per diems. What is the perk, in your opinion, that has impacted a player's life on tour in the best way? Like something maybe the public doesn't even know about that has improved for the player's life?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest with you, I think, and I'm still, traveling around the world and, participate in some of the tournaments and, close friends with other tournament directors where I go around. And of course, Indian Wells always has that at the top of the priority list to make sure that not only the players, of course, also the fans and the sponsors, but everyone feels welcomed and has everything sort of covered that you can imagine. But, for me, looking at the tour right now, I mean, could it be any better? I mean, it's like, how well do we treat the players? There is really nothing anymore that they do not get, from that perspective. And that's okay. And that's the way it should be, because in the end of the day, the fans and the sponsors and the TV and everyone that views is because of is because of the athletes, is because of the players. But it's incredible, right? I mean, there's no more. I mean, I remember playing a few tournaments, even back in the mid-90s, late 90s, where you would play some lower tournaments, and sometimes they wouldn't even have really any food at the facility, or they would order, pizza, and you would, maybe get your lunch there, which is, obviously not the greatest nutritions to put in your body during the day while you're practicing or getting ready for the match. But now those things are all gone. I mean, there's nothing really the player can't ask for. So, being a professional tennis player in this day and age is probably the best time.
Zhang, a couple points away from closing it out. You were talking about how the sport has evolved. I think you've answered this before on maybe an older TC Live, but we got 5 players in the top 50 of the one-handed backhand. Of course, you had a one-handed backhand. We got 1 in the top 10. If you were coaching a younger player right now, would you advise against one or the other, and maybe some pros or cons of the 1E versus 2 in today's tennis?
Yeah, it's kind of sad to see, of course, as a former one-hander, to see that it's sort of dying out there a little bit. It is a more beautiful shot. I think you do have more variations, but you have to be strong, right? And you have to sort of have all kinds of one-handed backhands now. I'm not just saying coming under the ball, but you have to be able to drive through it. You have to be able to take a second serve early and really sort of also be aggressive with that. And that sometimes I miss seeing that a little bit. Even looking back, Boris Becker had that, blocker backhand return a lot of the times for a one-hander. I feel like I did that quite well with the one-hander myself. It's the one thing that, Dominic Thiem could do as well, really, really well, even though he liked to prefer and stay way back and let that always drop and sort of get back into the rally. But that's something I would have told him as well to do a little bit more of. And, and that's what you kind of miss seeing a little bit with Tsitsipas. Even Federer, he dialed in the later years of his career, even as we mentioned in 2017. I mean, I watched him play against Nadal in Indian Wells, and he took the return so early, stepping into the backhand. It's like, why do not more one-handers try to do that? I know it's a tough shot, but you're good enough to be able to do it. And also the chip and charge slice return that Tim Henman did well. So just kind of getting in position. Of course, if you're very young and starting off playing tennis these days at age 4, 5, 6, it's easier to learn two-handed backhand, of course, and it's probably easier on your arm as well. But it really is a little bit of the tradition or the coach's mindset or the player's mindset of maybe getting into a one-hander. You probably can create more power with the two-hander, and it helps you obviously. Drive through it more and maybe block the first serves of returns a lot easier. But overall, Nosy knows that the one-hander is the way to go.
So, I got one quick follow-up to that, because, Tommy, I got you on the Mount Rushmore of one-handed backhands, so you can pick yourself. But I'm curious, who's on your Mount Rushmore of one-handed backhands last 20, 40 years?
Yeah, well, Ivan Lendl would be one for sure. I mean, that's kind of like who I looked up to with the one-handed backhand. That was a thing of beauty, technique-wise, all of that stuff. I think Richard Gasquet has to be up there. That's a thing of beauty. I like Pablo Cuevas' backhand as well. Of course, Dominic Thiem backhand. When he really fired that thing up the line, it was great. Of course, Wawrinka is up there. Rogers backhand. Of course, you have to acknowledge that. Even though I think that was one of the shots that you could kind of stay within him in the rally in many ways. Maybe for his sort of level of play, that was maybe one of his, if you can even say it, weaker shots, which it really wasn't. But those are the ones that I can think of. I'm probably missing a few others that are definitely credible to be up there as well. Even in the in the 80s, I think we forget sometimes how good of players that in that generation were, and more one-handers, of course, at that time. It's a thing of beauty. I love watching it. Even Musetti now, I think, is sort of holding up that that trophy of one-handers, and he's looking like a dark horse for me right now at the French Open as well.
Well, I guess that was going to be one of my questions, was who's your favorite one-hander right now? And so I guess you said Musetti. So now let's talk about German tennis. You being German, is there some concern for Sasha Zverev? He's number 2 in the world. He won in Munich, but no one's really talking about him as far as winning at RG. What do you feel in Sasha Zverev? Is there some concern? What do you feel like he needs to work on?
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a concern, really. I mean, Sasha has been around now for the past 7-8 years, top 10 player. I mean, pretty much has won everything there is. If he were to stop today, it's an unbelievable career. The consistency of a player that he is. And there's really only a handful of players that he usually loses to. And we're looking at, 2 or 3 of them right now here on the screen. I think he obviously knows, and he's putting a lot of pressure on himself, and knowing that, the only thing that's missing is a Grand Slam title. It's the only thing that's missing in Germany for a long time. Of course, I was one of them trying to sort of bring back a Grand Slam title to our country in Germany. What is he gonna be able to do differently, not only mentally, but potentially when it comes down to the big moments in a match that I'm sure we're gonna see him again. We know what to expect with Sinner. We do also know what to expect with Alcaraz. That can be a little bit up and down. I mean, we can never count out Djokovic in this scenario. Casper Ruud playing again really, really well. Jack Draper's having a hell of a year. I mean, watch out for this guy. He can be top 5 end of the year easily. Holger Rune, you never really know what to expect with him either. At the French, he can be very dangerous. And Tsitsipas, okay, best of 5. Let's see what the draw looks like. But for Zverev, I think it's just a matter of, do I get into the semis? Am I gonna, face somebody like Alcaraz or Sinner? And am I gonna be able to step it up, play more aggressively, maybe risk more with my forehand, come to the net a little bit more to kind of shake things up a little bit? I think the top players know what to expect with Sasha when it comes down to the big key moments. And that might be the difference for him winning a slam or not down the road.
And Tommy, you know Novak extremely well. What do you expect from Novak Djokovic going into RG?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I feel like, mentally he's, in a place that can be very dangerous when you're like sort of with one foot outside of, your focus, and, you're kind of doing lots of other things. I know he was here in LA this past couple of days at the Milken Institute, doing a lot of other things on the side. You wonder if the focus is there enough. And of course, once he sort of, puts his foot down again and does his training and, potentially win 2, 3, 4 rounds at the French, you're going to have to count, with him at all times. Even though I think best of 5 with not many matches under his belt, it's going to be very tough. So, I don't really see him as one of my top 3 favorites to win the French. But, if he does get his reps in, if he does play maybe, Queens this year or not, he'll still be one of the favorites for sure going into Wimbledon. Quicker points, and obviously with his past playing so well there. But, it's great to still have him around. I think it's amazing that he is willing to do that and to really go after it. If there is going to be a couple tournaments left this year where he's going to give it his absolute all and focus mentally and not be so down on himself as we have seen the last couple of months potentially, it is going to be the French, Wimbledon, and US Open. I mean, what else is he really playing for? That's all that matters to him.
Tommy, I want to know what's coming up next on your schedule. Are we going to see some tennis matches, maybe some Legends events or exhibitions? What's exciting to you in your near future on the calendar?
Well, my days exist of mostly, being in the car for about 2.5, 3 hours a day. Taking my kids to school in the morning, picking them up in the afternoon, and then potentially doing some rehab myself this afternoon, trying to get a little workout in. There's a Bundesliga match in Germany that I'm playing end of this month.
Wow.
That I'm gonna have to try to get ready for. Hopefully, my shoulder is not gonna bark to me too loudly, where I can compete and play a little bit. There are some Legends events coming up as well in the summer. Of course, again, those great invitationals in Wimbledon the second week, which is always fun. And of course, playing a little paddle, staying busy. But when I'm here in LA, it's mainly priority is my kids, making sure I spend as much time I can with them, and help out on the tennis court as well with my youngest Josephine, who is really liking it these days. And that's what it exists of. And I travel still enough. So when I am here in LA, it's really mainly focused on the kids.
How's that school pickup line in LA? A little traffic.
I saw a few Bentleys in the parking lot.
The crazy social media world, right? All the stuff that you post sometimes when you get a little bit too bored in life, I guess.
Tommy, I'm interested.
No, it's always fun. My youngest is such a sweet, happy kid, and even there, I was kind of testing her when the German was coming through the pickup line with some good techno-electronic music.
I saw that story. I loved it.
Tommy, I'm interested, to hear your perspective. Obviously, you understand the game about as well as anybody. I'm just curious, have you ever been approached or have you ever thought about coaching? I mean, we see so many great champions come back and coach, and I mean, we can hear how much knowledge and understanding you have of the game. I mean, you would be a tremendous asset to somebody.
Yeah, potentially. And thanks for that, Nozib. And I did actually help out Luca Pui a little bit many years ago when he reached out. And of course, there's been others that have asked me if I would be interested. And for me, it really came down to, again, with my intensity, with my mindset, is, I don't want to be a person that's just going to be around, 10 to 16 weeks a year. I just don't feel like that's fair necessarily. Unless maybe that particular player would only want that, and I would see a good cooperation and potential. But I of course I would be interested for sure down the road if that potential person or player has a chance to go all the way, right? I mean that's what would be fun. That would be the the drive and the rush to, of course, go all the way to winning slam titles. I mean that's really the only way I would consider doing it. Again, with my kids being only 14 and 9 years old, I can't really commit to the 30+ weeks at the moment. It would be, not the right timing for me. But, come 6, 7, 8 years from now, if the right player comes along, I'm always, just a phone call away to of course, give some advice or hit some balls here and there when they come through LA or even through Florida when I go to IMG Sports Academy. So always happy to, give some advice that way. But to do it full time on tour, you have to commit and you have to be fully part of the team at all times, in my opinion.
Tommy, let's not skip over that Bundesliga match you're getting ready for. Who's on your team? And people need to understand the Bundesliga is very tough. You're going to be playing guys in the top 100.
No, actually, I'm playing in the Bundesliga over 30, so It's a little bit different. And so
still some great players.
The regular Bundesliga would be a little bit too tough, and too much demand on the body these days. Even though, of course, I would be up for the challenge, but I don't have to push myself that hard. But it's over 30. I still play players that are ranked between like 300 and 500 in the world. Those guys are still out there, hoping for the best and seeing if they have a breakthrough. So I still have to be ready, no doubt about that. I still usually give myself at least 7, 8, 9 days to, play consistently every day and, do some more workouts just to be ready, because you play best of 3 sets and I don't want to be too sore after that match usually. It's fun. It's fun, but at the same time, I know I have to beat myself up a little bit to be ready and support my team. Lots of great guys on the team, lots of great players that played college tennis and, go back to Munich and live there and have a regular, work day, usually, working for different companies. But they all love tennis. They're all super pumped to always play Bundesliga. And it's usually in Germany, all these clubs going against each other. It's always great times and, super fun.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're taking it seriously at all. Such a treat as always to have you on the show, Tommy. So thank you for story time and thank you for the insights on today's game. Hope to get you back on soon.
Great seeing you guys.
Tommy,
yes,
great seeing you.
See you soon, buddy.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
See you, buddy.